Good morning, everyone, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Happy Shochu'sday. This is Steven, coming to you from Fukuoka. And with me down in Kagoshima is Maya, who's been on the show before. I don't know the last time that you and I were on together. I know we did a three-headed talk with Christopher.
I don't think it's ever been the two of us, to be fair. Yeah, this might be a first.
Right. I think that's correct. And we were actually talking today about the investment in Kanosuke Distillery with Diageo. But before we get started, why don't you kind of tell us how things are down in Kagoshima? What's been going on?
We are in Manbo Shitai, the quasi-national state of emergency, which is, I think, one step below what you are in Fukuoka.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You're in the state of emergency, and Tokyo's in the state of emergency. So in Kagoshima City, where I live, is the only place in Kagoshima where you're not allowed to serve alcohol in any establishments.
Okay.
So shops and bars and restaurants have to close at 8 right now.
Okay.
But even if you're closing at 8 in Kagoshima City, you're not allowed to serve alcohol at all during the day. The other places were released from that last week, so you can go to the other cities and they can serve alcohol, but Kagoshima City, which has had the highest number of cases so far, is not allowed to serve alcohol.
Okay.
Except I've been hearing rumors that if you have the prefectural third-party sticker stamp of approval of COVID protocols, then they might allow alcohol service until 7 o'clock from tomorrow for those establishments that are on the list, the approved list.
Yeah, we're in, I guess, actually, it sounds like we're in the same level. Maybe we are higher, but maybe the higher levels don't affect me.
The higher levels, I think, apply to the entire prefecture, whereas the level I'm at, it's the governor's decision of where it applies specifically in the prefecture.
Gotcha. Okay, so the restrictions are the same, but here it's prefecture-wide. I got it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we're the same. It's restaurants and bars closed bars aren't even open. What's the point? But restaurants close at 8, and after that, you're stuck with convenience stores for dinner. So
even like the chain McDonald's and Mossburger, they all switched to takeout after 8 or 9.
Okay, so you can still get food. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Get food. They're open at some, but only for the big chains are open takeout only as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's very boring.
Yeah. Have they decided when that's going to lift?
It's supposed to end officially on the 30th.
Okay.
And then we'll see what happens after that. I don't expect them to be like, oh, we're in a quasi state of emergency and now it's fine, so just free for all, you're allowed to do whatever you want. I don't expect that sudden drop in protocols. I imagine there will be some intermediate restrictions.
Right.
We're down into single digits of new cases, though.
Okay.
For the past couple of days. Kagoshima had no new cases yesterday for the first time in 89 days. So
oh, well. That's good.
3 months. So, yeah.
Yeah, we've, I think our cases are down quite a bit as well. Fukuoka got pretty high during this current wave. I think over 1,000 cases a day, which is well over what it had ever been before. But, then when I was back in the States and, that's just kind of normal. So it's a different level of risk tolerance, I guess.
Yeah, it's what you're willing to accept.
Yeah, but I guess Japanese vaccination rates now are quite high. I mean, they're essentially equivalent with the U.S. at this point.
Yeah, I think they've said everyone who's supposed to, if you want it, you should be able to get it by the end of November or October.
Mm-hmm,
and they might be approving the younger groups now.
Yeah, it seems like compliance is really high because I think 65% fully vaccinated, or no, what is it, 55% fully vaccinated and 62% at least one job. Something like that.
Sounds right. Yeah. I see the numbers every day, and then I just kind of just throw them down into the line group. We have a group to keep in touch with all the numbers, and then promptly forget about them.
Yep, but it's it's encouraging. Hopefully, we'll be back to some state of normalcy. I mean, Denmark just recently lifted all restrictions. They feel like they're past COVID. Oh, Maya left. Anyway, this isn't COVID chat. This is Shochu'sday, so we should talk about our topic here. Looks like she's back. There you are.
Something.
All right.
Sorry.
Welcome back.
Something happened.
Yeah.
Something happened.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So anyway, this isn't COVID chat. This is Shochu'sday.
Let's talk about happier things.
Yeah. And I know you've had lots and lots and lots of interactions professionally and socially with folks from Komasa. So it must have been pretty big news in Kagoshima when this investment from Diageo was announced. Is that right?
You'd think. Yeah. I
Yeah.
was actually just for those of you who know, I work at a shochu bar, and I was obviously we're closed right now, but I was meeting with one of my coworkers just to go over the end of month inventory stuff, and I mentioned about Kanosuke. I was like, oh, so just backtrack. Kanosuke Distillery is the whiskey arm of Komasa Jozo. Do you have a bottle there, Stephen? Or no?
I do not. I do, but it's packed away. I wasn't sure what box it was in. Do you have one?
I have. Hold on. I have so much. I have so many. I brought props. I haven't actually opened it yet. This is the newest, most recent distillery exclusive.
Oh, okay.
Single malt, which you can try to enter on the online lottery once a month on the first of the month. For those of you who are out there in Japan, domestic delivery only. Distillery exclusive. They're numbered somewhere here. This is actually aged in double IPA casks. Finished. Okay. From a local brewery in, I want to say Shikoku Prefecture. Shikoku Island somewhere. Tokunoshima. Kochi. I forget. So Kanosuke came out with their first single malt 3-year aged in June of this year. And in August, the distillery announced, Komasa Jozo, their parent company, announced that they were splitting off the whiskey arm into a separate company. So it's now Komasa Kanosuke Distillery Limited and Komasa Jozo. And then in the beginning of, was it this month, September, there was an announcement that Diageo was buying a minority stake in Kanosuke. So when they had announced that Kanosuke was spinning off into a separate company, I was expecting there must be some kind of investment, or they're working towards that, so that it's a separately listed company and that they can have their own investors separate from the shochu business. So I didn't know it was going to be Diageo, right? All places. So as far as I or anyone else aware, this is Diageo's first investment into a Japanese whiskey company.
Yeah, and they're actually doing it through their spirits accelerator, which is called Distilled Ventures. Yeah, it's not Diageo itself; it's their subsidiary company. But they've done this around the world with lots of different up and coming distilleries that they see promise in, and they'll make an investment to try to help them scale, essentially. And if you read the press release on the Diageo website, it really is about giving Kanosuke the ability to scale up production and find worldwide distribution, which of course Diageo is one of the largest spirits makers in the world, can do.
I was looking in my collection for a Diageo bottle, so I found one.
Did you?
Do you want to guess what it might be? You probably won't guess.
No, I probably won't.
The Game of Thrones Lagavulin, which I bought at the Lagavulin Distillery in Scotland a couple years ago. Okay. So there's the good old Diageo mark there.
Yeah. And HBO, look at that.
And HBO, yeah. Official. It was cheaper. I should have bought it at the duty free. It was much cheaper, but I bought it at the distillery like a schmuck. Whatever. Cool story. I bought it at the distillery.
Yeah, sure.
But no, it's because the taxes in Scotland are, UK taxes, man. Alcohol taxes, incredible.
I think I realized just how high Japanese taxes can be as well, because if you're in Miyazaki Prefecture and you buy a bottle of my favorite beer, which is the Kurikuro, the chestnut porter from Hideji Brewery, it's 1,000 yen. and a buddy of mine just found it in a liquor store in California for $7. So it's more expensive in the home prefecture than it is in California,
including shipping across an
including
ocean.
shipping. Yeah, so you can imagine what the tax is on Japanese beer. Pretty high, I'm guessing.
That's why people don't buy real beer. People buy the malt beverage.
I think this might even be considered happoshu because it has chestnuts in it, right? Like if you add anything,
you're getting gypped. Yeah. That's all there is.
Well, here in Fukuoka, if you go to a beer festival, it's 2,000 yen a bottle.
No, thank you.
It's impossible to find. So, but it's a delicious beer. Anyway,
to give some relativeness, this bottle of single malt Kanosuke Japanese whiskey, which is 200 milliliters, that you can only buy at the distillery that's numbered, and it's one of 1,400. This is 3,800 yen, 3,800 yen. So
it's about
$35.
Yep, for 200 ml.
200 ml.
Yeah, and
how
much?
Their full size.
Their first release, how much was that? The 700 ml.
700 ml was 13,000.
$13,000, about $120.
And change, and
125, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
I did finally get one of those, which I was happy about. Not easy to find for sure.
Unless you live where I live and you know where to look.
Of course. Well, I just never thought.
I will not say how many total bottles I bought. I will not.
Okay.
I made an investment in my shelf.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah, I
did find
several
local
days.
Found a local liquor store that seems to be a big one of Mars high value shops here in Fukuoka, because they had everything. They had the first Tsunuki, they had the Pita, they had 19, 20, and 21 limited editions. So I think that'll be my go-to whenever Mars has something new coming out.
Well, they just came out with the Komagatake limited 2020.
Yeah, they had that. I didn't buy it because I was on my bicycle and had already picked up other things to fill my bag, but I know where they live, so I'll definitely be back. Yeah, so I mean, so you were telling the story about your coworker, right? And you talked about this and
I mentioned, so they spun off Komasa, the shochu gin arm. They do make a gin, or several, and then from the whiskey. So originally, and we know him very well, the Shacho, the president and CEO of Komasa Distillery. He's one of two brothers, and the older brother was the president of the distillery, and originally he was listed in the I guess the information they were sending out to related parties, that he was going to remain the president of both arms, the whiskey arm and the shochu arm. And then when they officially announced the split, his younger brother became president of the shochu arm, and then the older brother remained the president of the whiskey side. He does have more experience with overseas and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, I also thought that was an interesting kind of breadcrumb in terms of the management of, so he could focus, older brother could focus on whiskey, and then they were going to let the younger brother take over the shochu arm. So this is what I was mentioning to my coworker just yesterday. I was like, oh, so we have a new shacho, a new president of one of the biggest whiskey shochu companies in Kagoshima. They're top 10. And she was like, oh, I hadn't heard. And she's pretty good about checking the social media and Instagram. So she might have heard about the Diageo buy-in. She might have seen the official post on the Kanosuke accounts and maybe not understood it. I don't think Diageo, if you're in Japan, because they don't have such a big presence here, you might not really understand the significance of that company.
Right.
So I think they just kind of brushed it up like, oh, someone's buying in, okay, and not understand that as we Westerners do, just because the name value is not as significant.
Right. I mean, they are more Hennessy, Diageo, like they're a huge alcohol company, global. I think they're in 180 countries or something like that.
I think, don't they Guinness and Bailey's and all those things you drink when you're in college?
Sure. That's all thanks to Diageo, right?
Yeah, I think Smirnoff. I think Smirnoff is in there somewhere.
Could be. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then so she didn't know. She's like, oh, I hadn't heard. So I was like, yeah, well, so maybe we'll be seeing the younger brother out more doing, marketing, sales calls out to bars and stuff. So that'll be an interesting adjustment for the shochu as well.
Yeah. When I first read about it, was actually, as always, it seems like Whiskey Richard at Nomunication always has his finger on the pulse of the Japanese whiskey industry. So I saw a post from him about it. That's how I first caught wind of it. And then he made it very clear that they were not investing in the shochu. And originally I thought, well, yeah, I guess they're just not ready for shochu. But when they are, I guess Komatsu is a good partner. But since they've split off, they're separate companies now. Of course, I'm sure that they'd be happy to work with Diageo globally if they have the chance with shochu. But even Diageo's press release said shochu, a white spirit from Japan. That was their...
Yeah. They also misspelled the name of Komasa's mellowed kozuru. The original barrel-aged rice shochu was not... it wasn't past tensed. It's mellowed.
Okay. Right,
mellowed kozuru is the actual brand name. But in Japanese, it's called mellow. So the English in the Diageo press release was also mellow kozuru.
Yeah.
So as a fan, I was, as an English writing professional, I was like, no, don't do that.
Yeah. Well, press releases often have errors. So
yeah.
Actually, our friend of the show, Johnny Walker. Yeah, I've heard of that brand. Have you heard of Johnny Walker? I don't know. When was the last time you had Johnny Walker?
When I was in Scotland, I had the Game of Thrones White Walker, Johnny Walker, because it was Game of Thrones time, and I bought the Lagavulin White Walker and maybe the ice one. Again. But I don't drink a lot of, I don't drink Jim Beam either. I don't drink all those kinds of the Ben.
Yeah, I don't drink a lot of blended scotch, I guess.
I don't drink a lot of scotch. I have a lot of scotch in my house. Having been to Scotland. I have a lot of whiskey in my house that I don't drink because I don't drink whiskey. Are
you just collecting? Yeah. What's the purpose of lots of whiskey?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, half of it's Kanosuke, I'm sure, or Tsunuki.
Sure.
The limited editions of Tsunuki. So I buy them up. Speaking of, I forgot to going back to Kanosuke.
Yep.
Their second release is coming out in November 12th. Their second edition single malt limited release. And it was aged in the first edition was aged mostly it's a blend, but aged mostly in the shochu casks that you used for the rice shochu, the mellow kozu shochu casks. And the second edition will be mostly ex-bourbon casks.
Okay.
So slightly different.
Right.
That's coming out. I have a fun tasting board from Kanosuke. They use the barrels. They've repurposed the old barrels for this.
Nice.
They have keychains. I have so much goods.
Yeah, I need to go back. I mean, I was there before they opened when I was doing research for my book, and I have not been back to the distillery since they opened. So
I went.
I will be there hopefully around that time. I think I'll be down at Yamato Zakura as usual. Well, so that gives me a target date. Try to be in the area around then.
Distillery.
Sure.
Yeah, they had for the first edition they had shop sales on site on the first day. It was apparently they started at 9, and I had planned to get there just before 9, with Kiko, who because she has the car and I don't. So I was like, okay, we have to go to the distillery today, and it was in our schedule from weeks ahead.
Yeah.
And then I took the wrong exit on the highway. Huh. I missed the turn because I don't usually drive. And then later, it was apparently a very difficult turn to find. The GPS was off. So we were 5 minutes late getting to the distillery, and there were already cars leaving. All the cars, the parking lot was nearly empty, and all the cars were leaving. And I was like, oh, well, I was expecting more of a line. And they said people had been waiting for at least like half an hour in advance before 9 because everyone just got there early and then left in 3 minutes once they bought what they wanted.
did they have enough stock? Like you're
Yeah, well,
still
they
able
were
to get-
selling for a few days because I know a couple other friends of ours who I informed that they could go buy it down there. So they
Mhm.
had enough stock. And then you got like a little ticket, that
Mhm.
allows you to buy one per customer.
Okay.
And then they did have an online lottery for that as well on their website in advance.
Mhm.
And then if you were around here, I went to so many liquor stores around here in the 3 days after that release
Mhm.
to buy X number of bottles, X number of which were shipped to X number of people, X number of which are still on my shelf. So,
I think there should be some Y's in there with that formula.
yeah, well,
At least if the X's are different numbers.
yeah, well, yes, X and Y. X and Y.
Yeah. Yeah, well, hopefully, I haven't yet figured out when I'll be at Yamato Zakura, but hopefully it'll be around that time and I'll be able to pick up a bottle of the second release as well. I like that. I remember talking with Komasa about the president about doing shochu cask fills, and I'm glad that he did that.
I think they were always going to. That was
Yeah.
always, that's their
Mhm.
calling. Kind of, they're very proud of the fact that they made the first cask aged rice shochu in Japan. And if anyone goes on the official tour, the tours are
Mhm.
not being held right now because of the pandemic. But
Sure.
once they start doing the tours again, you can book in advance on the website. I think you have to book at least 2 weeks in advance. They are very important. Book in advance for the Kanosuke tour.
Yeah.
It's 1,000 yen per person. But they talk about the history of the distillery before you even get into to see the mash tun and stuff. And it's very in depth about the founding of the company. And Kanosuke, the name Kanosuke is current President Komasa-san's grandfather's name, second generation president.
Okay.
And he's the one who bought the land and started doing all that kind of stuff. So it's very keeping in mind their traditions and their family history.
Mhm.
So I think the first release was always going to be
shochu. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Yeah, the distillery is, beautiful location right on the ocean and in the shadow of the Melukuzuru distillery, right, where they make that product. Is that right?
The distillery is about a 5 or 10 minute
Not really
drive
shadow.
away. Yeah,
They're-
but
it's
where
within-
they age the shochu is on the
Okay.
same premises. The cask aged shochu is in the warehouse is right next to Kanosuke Distillery. So they had the land already; it was being used. Except they might be moving some of that to make room for more whiskey, especially now that I think they need to build some more warehouses with some good
Right.
old Diageo Distill Ventures money.
It sounds like it.
Well, they only have one mash tun, so there's a limit of how, and then the five one of those washbacks,
Mhm.
and
How-
3 stills.
Okay.
So, and
Yeah,
they're not that big
Are they distilling every day right now? Do you know?
as far as I'm aware, or I think 5 days, 6 days a week.
Okay.
They do have one day where they're closed, and because they only have 5 washbacks.
Right.
So
Oh, right.
they have to
Yeah.
them.
Gonna have to knock out a wall and put in more equipment.
Yeah, when the 3 stills they have, there's 2 that are 6,000 liters and 1 that's 3,000 liter.
Mm-hmm.
If that's correct, or 1 6,000 and 2 3,000s. There's 6 and 3s. So there's a limit on how much they can just churn out every day, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. And obviously, they need to age more stuff to have stuff for the future. So
Yeah,
I think it's warehouse space as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've been in their warehouse. It's
I was in it when it was empty.
Yeah, but now it's got stuff in it. And every time I've been on the tour untold number of times, and every time they let you have a peek through the glass of one of the on-site warehouse. They have the one inside the actual tour, and then the one that's a little further up. But there's always I always kind of look to see what kind of new barrels they have. There's always one kind of peeking out. What kind of casks they might be having. If there's hints of lettering of what it might have had in it before, like color, they haven't been painted over in that Kanosuke white. So there's always a couple hints you can look for if you're ever at the distillery.
Are they doing any virgin oak, or they're just going completely in the Scotch tradition with repurposed casks or reused?
I did hear that they might be thinking about Mizunara at some point.
Okay.
It's a Japanese Mizunara, which would
Yep.
be then a virgin.
Mhm.
But I think they were still kind of deciding and thinking about it, and
Yep.
sourcing and all that kind of stuff. And apparently Mizunara leaks a lot.
Yep. Yeah.
Very porous or something.
Notorious. I remember, at least when I started, weren't they were importing their grains from Scotland, and I think now they're planning
They still
on
are.
using local. Are they? Okay. Yeah.
Tsunuki, Mars Tsunuki is doing some local
Okay.
malt or barley.
Mhm.
Kanosuke is thinking about it, but most of theirs is still UK imports,
Okay.
peated and unpeated, non-peated. So
Yeah.
can someone comment? Do people say non-peated or unpeated? I see both. Is this an American English
Good
UK
question.
thing?
We do have a question. It's going to change our direction from Luke. Will this set a trend for overseas investment in Japanese shochu, sake, awamori companies? And it's a great question. I was a little bit surprised by this announcement, simply because so many Japanese distilleries have been so resistant to foreign investment. But as you and I both know, Komasa, the president, is quite innovative in his thinking, and a little bit of he's definitely progressive. And especially if I remember in Kagoshima, I guess just to set context for people, Kagoshima is quite conservative, quite rural. It's very much, it reminds me very much of the Deep South in some ways. And
I specifically think it's Alabama. No offense to Alabama, obviously. I love Kagoshima, so.
And Miyazaki is essentially Mississippi, maybe.
Mississippi,
right?
Yeah.
They're very, very rural, very conservative areas. And I distinctly remember being at the SG Shochu release party in Tokyo, and they had Shingo Gokan, who's the founder of the brand, and then the presidents of the three companies that he partnered with to create the rice, barley, and sweet potato variations of the SG Shochu. And each of them was interviewed, and of course it was the president of Ichiko, who was quite sophisticated in his thoughts about international markets, and then the president of Takahashi, or Hakatake Shiro, which is their main brand, and he was also quite thoughtful in his remarks. And then the president of Satsuma Distillery got up there and he said, "I'm from Kagoshima. I don't know anything about this."
but they were still buying into it, right? So.
Oh yeah, no, they did, but they were asking for what's the potential for shochu in cocktails. He's like, hell if I know. I don't drink cocktails.
Yeah, very this is what you see is what you get in here. They're not pretentious about that in any way. He's not going to pretend and dig himself a hole.
But you take those conservative attitudes, and then the idea of foreign investment, I think, can be quite foreign for them to even consider, right? It's not something that a lot of these companies would really even entertain. But I think
that's a deterrent to the foreign company as well, because they have that. They're like, we're not going to be well received on this offer. So I think that's historically a deterrent as well.
Yeah. And Beam Suntory is now larger than Diageo as far as being a spirits company. So you have a Japanese company that can do that investment, right? If they get interested. And you also have Asahi and Kirin, which are huge companies.
It's much more common to be bought out by one of the major Japanese conglomerates.
Yeah. And so I guess so people are aware, Asahi actually owns Nikka, and they're the parent company for Nikka. And then of course Kirin has their own line of whiskeys, which I believe they're releasing in the US this year. Their Fuji brand. It will be the first Kirin release in America, and I believe that it was supposed to already be in market, but I think it was delayed due to the logistical challenges. I think it's going to be there in October, November. I think it's called Fuji Single Grain, if I'm not mistaken.
I think
they're going to have a number of SKUs, number of products in the portfolio, but those are coming soon. And then you have Mars, which is Hombo Distillery, and they're a massive conglomerate as well. They've got all sorts of interests in soft drinks and all kinds of other things that they have invested.
Hombo does, not Mars.
Hombo does, right? Yeah, but Hombo owns Mars.
They have a wine arm as well. They make a lot of domestic.
Yeah, the Mars. You see Mars wine in lots of shops around the country. So
very affordable, very decent Japanese wine.
Yeah, so I think you're right. I think we will see. I'm sure we'll see more international investment, but I think it's still going to be the exception rather than becoming more common.
In terms of disclosure, you were talking about Asahi Nikka, and Suntory, both of which have bought out shochu distilleries here in Kagoshima and make shochu as well as whatever else they might be making behind closed doors. I've heard rumors of whiskey production, but obviously whatever it is would be a blend, and it's not being released as a single grain. So Suntory owns Osumi Chuzo over in the Osumi Peninsula in Shibushi, and so they rebranded Osumi's flagship shochu, which was called Osumi, and it's now Suntory the Osumi, and the kanji looks just like Yamazaki. It's the same calligrapher, as far as I'm told.
Okay, interesting.
And that's you can buy it at the local Don Quixote for like 800 yen a bottle, so it's super affordable.
Sweet potato shochu.
And sweet potato.
Okay.
But it's Suntory, and then Suntory's come out with some Mugi stuff.
Okay.
That Matsuko Deluxe was in the commercials. So Matsuko Deluxe is a huge Japanese comedian, literally and figuratively, and having that kind of star power for a shochu commercial, for a Kagoshima shochu, was quite a big surprise for a lot of people here. So that was due to Suntory having that PR marketing strength.
Okay. And it looks like it's actually I was just checking to make sure that I had this correct, that the Osumi distillery is also being used to make rice whiskey now.
Yes. So it's not being released, or it's not. Is it going to be blended, or I don't? They haven't.
It's probably going into their blends at this point.
Right. So they have a
domestic grain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Suntory is making the whiskey there grain, and then Asahi Nikka also has bought out Satsumatsukasa distillery up in Kirishima area.
Okay.
And they're supposed to be also making whiskey there as well. Some kind of grain.
Yeah. I guess they realized they needed to expand as well with the demand that they have all over the world for their products.
Yeah, but they still make shochu. They still put out shochu, and it says Asahi or Nikka depending on which.
I've seen it.
Yeah. So they still, and then there's some other. I saw a crowdfunding thing for a whiskey distillery at a tiny shochu distillery. Did you see that a couple of months ago? Some tiny distillery that makes like a couple discontinued shochus. I think they were going bankrupt or something, and they got bought out, and then they were crowdfunding to turn into a whiskey distillery, and it's very confusing.
Okay.
And no one really knows why you need to be crowdfunding to turn into a distillery. It means you didn't get an investment, obviously, if you're trying to crowdfund. So
right.
Crowdfunding.
Crowdfund sounds fun too.
Well, when you have the katakana, it could be either.
True.
It could be the cloud or the crowd.
Yeah, that's right.
You are funding on the cloud from the crowd.
In the cloud.
It's all online in the cloud.
Yeah, but I know there has been foreign investment in sake breweries, right? There's the pretty well regarded brewery. I'm not remember the name of their brand now, but they had French investment. So these things are happening, but I do think they again remain the exception rather than the rule. But that's interesting that the big boys have started to buy up shochu makers around Kagoshima to increase their green whiskey production. But it makes sense.
I work at a very famous shochu bar in the city, and so when the management has important out-of-towners to wine and dine on shochu, they generally come to our bar because it's fairly laid back and dark and quiet. And we have whatever you're selling, we have it. Like we have the biggest selection. So we might not have the entire line, but we'll have enough of the company's product that you don't have to worry about that. So when the Suntory folks were coming to check out Osumi, like we saw them fairly regularly coming in.
Okay.
And so we were like, oh, and just we had bottles of the Osumi just lined up to pour out to them and stuff. So
nice.
nice people. Like,
Mhm. Yeah, there were
everything.
actually a few Suntory folks at my my talk at Bar Convent Brooklyn, and they're very complimentary and appreciated my talk. Hopefully, they start thinking about Koji whiskey now as an alternative.
That'd be cool.
We did get a answer. It's unpeated.
Unpeated.
Yeah, and I trust John with pretty much anything.
Where is John based?
John
is this a British English or an American English?
John is in Asia. John, can you remind us which country? I know I just asked you the other day.
Singapore, Malaysia, somewhere.
Yeah, he's in that area.
Okay, but so that's a British English then. Is that a British English?
So,
because I think in katakana it's non-pito, it's non-peat, and I wonder where this non comes from. And then I remember reading maybe it was the Diageo press release where it said non-peated or it was one or the other. And on this bottle, unpeated with a hyphen.
unpeated.
How do people feel about hyphens? It's very confusing.
It is.
Which bar does Maya work at?
Yeah, why don't you talk?
Well, when you visit, you should first get in contact with me. Hit me up on Instagram or whatever. It's my full name, Maya.Aley. Hit me. Please get in touch with me on Instagram if anyone's visiting Kagoshima. I work at a bar called Roku. It's the first kanji character of Kagoshima, the kanji that means deer, which is the sister bar of Ishizue. If you Google Shochu Bar Kagoshima, Ishizue will be the first one that comes up. We're in Lonely Planet and all that kind of stuff. But I man the bar at the sister bar, which is a little bit smaller, a little bit more intimate, and you can less seating capacity.
Yep.
Obviously, both bars are closed, but
right. Although I doubt John could get in the country right now, so this will be for when things
in the future.
Things open up. Yeah, but they're both fantastic bars. They have very different feelings. Roku is much more intimate and casual, and then Ishizue is really. I feel like every single time I've been there, no matter what time of day or day of the week, there's somebody from a shochu maker there. It's just sort of it is the industry hangout, and it's very buttoned up and massive collection.
Yeah, but it's not. If you're a tourist or you're visiting, we get lots of tourists in for the day just because they Google Shochu bar and that's the first place that comes up. So don't feel like you have to wear like a buttoned up shirt or anything.
Oh no, I meant the staff is buttoned up.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I have a uniform. I don't wear a t-shirt. My Kagoshima City t-shirt today.
Yeah.
You have an Ichikishiki version of this, don't you? Or no?
I have Ichikishiki no and Fukuoka.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't really wear them in Japan.
I have to do I'm doing an online tour today for a client in Singapore, going around doing a city tour. So I had to figure out which shirt to prep.
Got to fit the part.
I do a lot of online tours for Singapore right now. So.
Yeah. So John says he's in Manila, the Philippines.
Oh.
Unpeated is more used in sites like Reddit, most review sites. So it's kind of it's the word that's been
the lingo, the common lingo.
The lingo that's been adopted. Yeah. So thanks for that, John. Great. So it's funny because we were just talking about all these different distilleries opening up. I'm really stretching here to try to make a connection to an earlier comment, but according to Chris, Kuro is brewed and sold only in North American markets, so it must be contract brewed. What my buddy found in the grocery store in the liquor store was not from Miyazaki. It was the same recipe made at a brewery and probably in California, given how many breweries there are there. So,
and then is it re-imported into Japan? Is that why it's?
Oh no! It's made in Miyazaki at Hideji, but that's only sold domestically apparently. So what's being sold in the States is contract brewed. That actually happens quite a bit. Oh, I see. I know that there are a number of breweries that will do that. I think Fukuoka Craft is actually is a craft brewery here. I believe they're entering the U.S. market, and it's with contract brewing happening in the States rather than shipping it from Fukuoka. And then, of course, all of the majors are brewed in North America for the North American market. All Asahi, Kirin, Sapporo.
Yes, they just the cost of shipping all that liquid water.
That's right. Orion is actually the Orion you find in the States is from Japan.
I like how you
So
pronounce Orion as Orion.
yeah, Orion beer is.
I haven't. Can you see my?
Oh, look at that! Nice.
So I have a case of Orion in my.
You
I have
must
2
love
packs
that
of.
beer.
I don't even drink beer. But I have 2 packs of Orion in my fridge.
That's more. That's a lot of.
Well, they're
Orion.
not all in the fridge. I have a can of each pack, and the rest are on the shelf.
Gotcha.
They had an Okinawa fair at Ami Plaza a while back, and so it's the Orion, not the regular, but some kind of IPA and something. Not the regular release, not the regular.
Okay, there are other beers I see.
Yeah.
So the trick actually for this is becoming beer chat, but the Maya doesn't even really drink beer, but
I don't
if you
like the barley juice.
If you look when you see Asahi in the States or in Canada, and you see the kanji for nama, which that's from Japan.
Oh.
Because it's unpasteurized, right? When it's contract brewed in Canada or in the US, it has karakuchi is the kanji that replaces nama on the can. So karakuchi means dry taste, right? So it's basically Asahi super dry karakuchi. So they just replace that kanji, and that's the one tell that it's from Japan versus not. So maybe we'll put
would there not be a production location on the back somewhere in the fine print?
There is, but people don't usually look for it. When you're just scanning a shelf, you're not like checking
okay.
where it's from, sort of thing. So,
I do. I look on the back.
Sure.
I want to know if my Coca-Cola was made in Mexico.
So I'll put those in the chat. He's super dry from Japan.
Are you drinking anything today, Stephen?
I'm drinking coffee.
Oh, I'm drinking tea.
Yeah,
but yesterday I want to show my mug, my cup.
Oh, that's pretty.
Yesterday was the full moon, the
Right.
15th night. So this is my it's my rabbit, and on the inside there's a moon.
Nice.
So this is the Aritayaki Shochu cup. I think you have one shaped like this, right?
I have a couple in that shape, but it doesn't have such great artwork. Mine are. I have a white one that has like gold and colored trim down at the base, and then I think a black one that has that same trim on it, and then I think I have a third one.
This is my seasonal fall moon, the rabbit on the moon, and
I like it.
The tangos or whatever this is. So
very good.
Ode to the season, autumn. But it's Kagoshima green tea. I have so much green tea in my house. Kagoshima is now the #1 producer of green tea not by volume, by cost, value.
By sales. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, by yen, I guess. Yeah.
And
Cool.
I just finished a tea seminar, an online tea seminar for a week. So much tea.
Nice. That's healthy. Why don't we shift gears? We're over 40 minutes already.
Yeah.
And
I wasn't sure how long we were going to chat today.
I wasn't either. So now we have newly opened.
Tangents. Oh, hold on.
Have you opened anything recently?
Hold on, I have. Okay. I put them slightly too far from arm's reach. But I did pull out some bottles. So my newly opened. Oh, do you want to go first?
Well, mine is not really a newly opened because I've been in bottle kill mode. I've been like trying to clear out my liquor cabinet a little bit.
Are you still in quarantine? Last week you were still quarantined.
I was out of quarantine as of Saturday. So
yay! Congratulations.
But nowhere to go. So
you could go buy new alcohol.
I could, and I did, but I bought wine because I like wine with dinner. But classy. What I've been trying to do is kill some of my old shochu bottles. So I have a bunch of bottles with 3-4 fingers left, and I'm just like, let me just work through those and clear out some space, because I don't feel justified in buying something new because I'll have finished some things. So what I actually did is I went back and I revisited something that we talked about on the show quite a while ago, and that's Nankai Gold, the barrel aged Kokuto shochu from Amami Oshima, from Machida Distillery, and this is a export only brand, right? This is the U.S. release. They kindly sent it to us, and it's barrel aged, as you can see from the color. And 43% alcohol, so it's foolproof or pretty close to it. And when I first opened it, it had a lot of kind of high notes or like sort of esters that I wasn't really appreciating. But since the bottle's been opened, I came back to it, and it's much more mellow now. It's quite.
What kind of high notes did you not?
I was getting a little bit of acetone, which I don't mind in my drinks, but it's not for everybody. Like I'll get that occasionally. So I mean, you have like Hanatade, right? It has loads of acetone. But for some reason, this was expressing a little bit of acetone when I first opened the bottle, and so I left it for probably close to a year. And now it's just got lovely cherry notes, and it's everything I would expect from a barrel-aged Kokuto.
Was that in the nose, or when you were drinking it as well?
It was more on the nose, but there was a hint of it on the palate as well. Maybe I'm just sensitive to it, and I'm so used to acetone in my drinks because of Hanatade, right? It's a note that I pick up pretty quickly. Like I remember having a single cask of, I think it was Oishi whiskey, the rice whiskey in the States. It was a single cask. Okay. I think it was a sherry cask, and people were going nuts for it. And so I went to this pretty well-respected whiskey bar in New York City where they had it, and I tried it, and it was just so much acetone. And in whiskey, I think of that as a fault. I don't mind it in Hanatade, and then in Shochu, it's somewhat tolerable. It just tells me there's a lot of heads in the distillate, but it was just not what I expected from a Kokuto. Although this happened to me, another time where this happened was in the Tokyo Whiskey and Spirits competition. It's blind tasting, obviously. They only tell you what the ingredient is. And there was a Kokuto, and it had all sorts of heady notes. It was acetone. It was all sorts of weirdness. And I scored it very low. Had they told me that it was a Hanatade, I would have scored it very differently, because Hanatade is a different thing. It's a different animal.
Did it tell you the ABV range?
Yeah.
Or was it too much of a range?
It just tells you 40 to 45, right? They don't tell you, because you can take a barrel aged or even a tank aged Kokuto at 40% or 43, 44% is not uncommon, right? This is 43, right? This is not, I'm sure they didn't just bottle heads, or barrel aged heads, but anyway, it now drinks very nicely. So so it's not newly open, but it's newly open in over a year, at least in this apartment. I opened it in my old apartment. So. How about you, Maya? What's your newly open?
I don't drink so much at home, even though I have loads of it to drink. But I was doing a couple online things with some friends recently. So I bought. This is Kokubu.
Yeah.
Is beautiful magnolia flowers, and the name of it is Magnolia Sunny Cream.
Magnolia Sunny Cream.
Magnolia Sunny Cream.
And does it taste like magnolias and sunny cream?
It tastes like bananas, and it smells like bananas.
How is it compared to like Komasa's The Banana?
This was more, because Komasa has Komasa's The Banana, which, by the way, they came up with the muscat version. The banana is banana on the nose, but then more emo on the palate, I think.
Okay.
I don't know if you would agree. But this is more banana through and through.
Interesting.
And the reason, a fun fact for anyone, you won't be able to buy this in foreign market. You can barely get it here. It was a limited experimental release from the same family as, I have the other bottle. I prepped my props today. Flamingo Orange is the same distillery. You can kind of tell that the label designs are similar.
Sure. Yeah, they're really fun. They're almost like natural wines, right? They're like the labeling for those that line of shochu. They're fun.
So I saw this label, just a shot of this label art on social media, and I didn't even read the text. I was like, oh, Kokubu's come up with something new.
Right.
Just one shot.
They also got Penguin Cool Mint is the other one in that.
The Cool Mint Green, yes. I don't have a bottle of it because I don't need that in my. I mean, it's great, but I can drink it at work if I wanted to.
I think that's actually my favorite of the three. Well, I haven't had this banana one, but I have a feeling I'm not going to care for it.
It's not really in the same vein as the other two. It's not that lychee kind of refreshing fruitiness. It's more of a sweeter, really like ripe banana notes.
Is it, okay, so maybe I will like it because I don't like the banana candy ester that people.
But do you like Komasa's the banana?
Not really.
No, then you won't like it. Like it's not that far removed that you would.
I hope Komasa stops watching by this point in the episode if he watches, since we're talking about Kanosuke.
You don't have to like all of their products.
True. I did buy a bottle, so I did support him, but that's one that's going to be harder.
I haven't tried their musket. I'm looking forward to trying it. But so this one, the reason it's banana notes, but it's called Magnolia Sunny Cream because apparently there's a flower, some kind of magnolia flower that the flower smells like bananas.
Okay.
And that's what they were going after.
Interesting.
And
I'll have to try a glass rather than investing in a bottle this time.
I have an extra bottle. That's not I bought two.
I don't know.
Because when it's limited, it's limited. Oh, I'm gonna cover up where I bought it just for it's stamped. But it was the bottling date. Can you see the bottling date was August 30th?
August 30th. Okay, yeah, very recent.
And then it was released on like September 3rd or something. So very, quick to press. And then a very limited release, so it is really sold out. Because a lot of the sake shops and restaurants have been closed, so they haven't been buying new stock. So the sake shop where I bought this, I went in on the day it was released in the evening, like half an hour before they closed, and I was like, you don't still have any, do you? Because they sell out of this in a flash. People line up to buy this one, which actually they just released another version. They just re-released it 2 days ago. I was like, you don't still have it, right? You're sold out, right? And they're like, oh, hey, Maya. Let's check in the back. And then they had an allotment, a case for, restaurant industry that they hadn't finished selling because people were just not buying stock. So they're like, you can have one of these bottles for not like the regular individual sale, but the restaurant sale. Right. Cool. They're like, yeah. I was like, are you sure? They're like, yeah, it's fine. It's cool. Yeah. It's you. And I was like, yay.
That happened to me.
We call that cow pass. Face pass.
There's I guess for people who don't live in Japan, there are liquor stores that cater primarily to, well, at least they have like a nice store. They've got a good storefront. They've got, pretty shelves and good displays and everything. And they cater to walk-in customers. But a lot of their business is going to be driven through selling direct to bars and restaurants, right? And then there are some liquor stores that basically focus on bars and restaurants, and they might have a tiny little shop, but then they'll have a huge back warehouse where they're shipping off all over the city. And I walked into one of those when I was in Okinawa. It was just the closest liquor store to my hotel. And I saw a bottle of 2020 limited edition Komagatake on the shelf, and there was just one of them. So I bought it, and then I asked if they had any more, and she just pointed to a box on the floor, and they had an entire case. And I thought about it, I was like, all right, I'll just take this one. And then I ended up going back a few days later, and the case was still there. And I ended up buying the entire case because, and she was like, thank you, because none of these bars and restaurants know what this is. Like in Okinawa, nobody has any interest in a $80, $90, $100 bottle of.
Yeah. Well, they have their own spirits there, and they've got rums and things, and it's probably it's cheaper to buy Scotch. Sure. Yeah.
So I was able to make some nice gifts to people, and then I kept a few bottles for myself. So that's sort of fun when you find those sorts of things, and then if you know the owner of the shop, obviously it helps even more. I've become semi-regular at the Sumiyoshi Shuhan down near Ropponmatsu Matsu Station here in Fukuoka, and they've always got stuff tucked away in a drawer. And whenever I walk in, they're like, how you doing? And I'll get a couple of things off the shelf, and then it's like, got anything else? And I'll just open that drawer, and I can poke around. And that's how I got the Prologue K from Shizuoka. So, yeah.
We don't get a lot of out of prefectural things like that because we're very insular.
You don't need to.
Yeah. But like if this Sunny Cream, it was officially sold out, And then half an hour before it closed, I'm like, hey, and they're like, oh, hey, yeah, we got you for you, yeah.
Sure, sure.
And then I had a friend who was like, I went and they were sold out. I was like, oh, you don't have the call pass.
Well, cool. Great. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah.
We gave Christopher the day off. It's his last night in New York. I think he wanted to enjoy the city a little bit. And
unlike the two of us who aren't allowed to go out and drink, Christopher just keeps posting on Instagram all his fun food and drink.
Yeah.
Jealous.
I mean, last night
Jealous,
he was
Christopher.
at Death and Company, and then or was it employees only? I guess employees only, maybe.
I was jealous about his Tex-Mex lunch with Jake. That looked delicious, Christopher. If you're watching,
I didn't see that. Maybe the
Tex-Mex.
algorithms only show me the booze. Well, I've had Tex-Mex.
It was his story. It was in his stories.
Gotcha. Yeah, the first thing I came home and made was chicken fajitas. So I had
some of those.
Tex-Mex recently. Yeah.
Tex-Mex via Fukuoka.
That's
via
right.
Fukuoka.
Great. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll wrap up. We're coming up on an hour, which we don't normally do. But
sorry, so chatty.
No, great chatting with you. Good to see you.
Yes.
I'm sure I'll see you when I'm down in Kagoshima. And if you get up to Fukuoka once things open up, let me know.
I have not left this town in so long.
Yeah, might be time for a visit.
15 minute radius walking from my apartment to anywhere is about as far as I get on a given day.
Yeah.
So I would like to take a train, a plane, anything.
Yeah. Well, Shinkansen to Fukuoka doesn't take that long.
Yeah.
Anyway, to all of you out there in Shochu'sday land, we thank you for listening. As always, we really appreciate your comments and the feedback that we get all the time. And again, Maya, thank you for being on the show. And to all of you out there, we wish you a hearty and heartfelt kanpai.